What is up, guys? Gronk here, bringing you my NXT review from last night, July 24th, 2014. The show started off with a promo video for the Summer Rae and Charlotte Divas title match, and they've been feuding for a couple weeks, and I think it's been pretty well done. I mean, it's continually building, and they've got Sasha Banks also involved because they used to be the BFF, the Beautiful Fierce Females. Summer in the promo said if she won the title, it would be the Summer of Summer. And I found that interesting because we've seen the Summer of Punk a couple years ago when Punk won the title, Money in the Bank, and then left, of course, all in storyline, left for a few weeks, and then came back, and now Punk's actually gone. Go figure. And then we were supposed to see the Summer of Cesaro, but that really never happened. Now Cesaro's losing to Kofi Kingston. But anyway, the first match was the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Ascension, facing Jobbers yet again. The Ascension keeps facing Jobbers, and I think it's grown really stale. The Ascension needs competition. I mean, the Tag Team Champions the Ascension have been the champions for 295 days, and that's a pretty long time, but they really haven't had that many credible defenses, and that's because NXT doesn't have many credible tag teams. If you just get more tag teams in NXT, that'll make the NXT Tag Team Championships much more prestigious. I think the Ascension are pretty interesting. I just can't tell if the heels are faces, because the fans chant along with them, and Connor did a little Eddie Guerrero dance after getting the knife edge shot from one of the Jobbers. So I can't really tell if the Ascension are heels or faces. They're kind of being booked like faces, even though the gimmick seems like it would fit better on a heel. I think that for the main roster, the Usos will hang on to the Tag Team Championships and probably face the Wyatt's again at SummerSlam and retain. And then the Ascension are probably going to get called up this fall or so, and then they'll be the ones to take the Tag Team Championships from the Usos. And that'll make it pretty monumental because the Usos have been Tag Team Champions since right around WrestleMania time. But I want NXT to get more tag teams. I want competitive tag team matches. If you look at the tag teams that NXT currently has, you've got the Vaudevillains, who I like, and I'll talk about them more later. You've got Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore. You've got Kalisto, and El Cal apparently retired because the guy under the mask, Ricardo Rodriguez, is not wrestling in the ring anymore. But Kalisto would have a new tag team partner tonight, which I'll also talk about later. And I don't remember their name, but the two French guys that are feuding with Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore. Something that I found funny was that the song The Jungle that was used as the Battleground theme was also used in the trailer for The Rock's new movie Hercules, in which The Rock stars as Hercules. And I found that pretty interesting because they're not related. I mean, the WWE isn't involved in the movie, and they're using the same song. Just a little thing I found a little funny. Tyler Breeze's entrance is pretty interesting. If he did the voiceover for the lyrics, and they say he did, and if he actually did, I think that'd be pretty cool. Just like the Ascension, I think Breeze is pretty original. While there have been a lot of guys that have gimmicks in which they're obsessed with their looks and their face. I mean, look at The Miz. He came back and he's now obsessed with his moneymaker. And some people are saying that tweak on Miz's gimmick is stealing right from Tyler Breeze. I don't really agree with that, but I think regardless, Breeze does his gimmick really well. I like Tyler Breeze. He's a great wrestler, as he showed in that match at TakeOver against Sami Zayn. I found it funny that Tyler Breeze injured his hand, at least in storyline, by hand modeling. I forget how Tyler actually got hurt. He hurt his hand, and they wrote it in that he got hurt hand modeling. They said it was a hangnail, and he had his hand all wrapped up tonight, which would factor into the outcome of his match with Mojo Rawley. I like Mojo. He's got the size WWE likes. Apparently WWE used to really be big on him. They wanted to push him to the moon like John Cena, but I guess they're not so hot on him anymore because Mojo has gotten squashed by Alex Rusev, and now he just lost in 5 seconds to Tyler Breeze. He drove Breeze in the corner, and then Breeze pretended to hurt his finger, and Breeze hit the beauty shot and win. It was, 10 seconds? That wasn't a match at all, and I kind of wish they actually put on a match just to give Mojo some more time in the ring. Because I think Mojo Rawley could be pretty good if he just learns how to wrestle, and who better at this point to help him at least learn a little than Tyler Breeze. He's one of the better wrestlers that NXT has at its disposal, at least that I've seen. I mean, Sami Zayn is phenomenal. He used to be El Generico on the independent circuit, so I think Sami's probably the best wrestler that NXT has at this point, along with AJ and Neville, but Breeze is right up there too. So WWE's probably pulling the plug on Mojo Rawley at this point, because now he's just an enhancement talent. So Breeze wins in about 10 seconds. Wasn't really a match. And then we go to the Divas Championship match. And I think that WWE needs to be careful with Charlotte. If she gets called up as the champion like Paige was, I think that'd be a mistake. I mean, look what happened to Paige. She got called up, and it was all, I think, a mistake. I mean, Paige got called up really quickly, and she took the title from AJ on her debut, which I think was the wrong decision. And she was kind of just pushed down the fans' throats, and people kind of like her. I mean, I know guys on the forums and whatever, everyone seems to like Paige. I'm not so crazy about it. I mean, I'm not really a fan of Divas wrestling in general. Never have been, but I think it's good that AJ won the title back from coming back from her honeymoon. And but they need to be careful with Charlotte, because they just should be, once they bring her up, just do it slowly and push her just gradually rather than what we saw with Paige. So I like Summer Rae. I mean, she's been good for what the storyline has been with Layla and Fandango. And hey, it got Zack Ryder to win on Raw. I thought that was amazing. Ryder to get on Raw in the first place, which has been happening for a few weeks now. And Ryder actually got a win. When was the last time that happened? I was shocked. I didn't get to see it myself, but I read about it the next day, and I was really surprised. I'm a big Zack Ryder fan. I have been for several years, and I think it sucks how WWE has treated him. Granted, Ryder complained on social media once they stopped pushing him originally, and that, so WWE is just kind of shooting yourself in the foot, and that's just burying yourself at this point. I think a lot of guys have made that mistake. I mean, Dolph Ziggler has done it in the past where he's complained, and Dolph Ziggler is phenomenal, but he's also injury prone, so not only has he complained, but he's also at the point where WWE is afraid to give him too much of a push, I guess, because they don't want him to get hurt. And then that's what happened. Dolph became the champion, and then he got hurt, and WWE had to call an audible, basically. But I thought the Divas title match was pretty okay. I mean, I guess Charlotte is capable of much better. I watched TakeOver, and she and Natalya put on a great match. The fans were kind of just crapped on this match. I mean, I wrote down my initial reactions, and I looked at the Cage Side Seat reaction. It's a good website that I use just to look for my own reference to see what they think. And apparently the fans obviously hated this match, and I didn't really get that sense. The match wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. So, something I found interesting, Renee Young is a good announcer. She's getting more and more skill as she goes on. She's getting more and more power, I guess you could say. I think she's announcing on Superstars now, which is pretty monumental for WWE, having a female announcer on Superstars, one of their bigger televised shows. But something that Renee said was, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and Summer Rae is wearing bacon pants. I thought that was pretty interesting. That was right around when Charlotte was making her way to the ring, and I just kind of scratched my head at that one. I was like, well, that's an interesting quote. To me, Charlotte in some pictures more than others looks like she's pretty old, and I've had that thought for a while. So when I was watching NXT this morning, I watched it on the WWE Network on my PS4. I didn't watch it last night, which is why I wind up doing most of the pay-per-views. But I looked up how old Charlotte is, and Charlotte Flair is 28 years old. It's all relative. I mean, that's not old by any means, but Sasha Banks, I think they said last week, was 20. And that's an 8-year difference. I mean, you have someone that's 28 years old, and they probably don't have too much time left. I mean, you see guys like Big Show, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels go into their 40s, but I really don't think Divas hang around that much. I mean, Divas, they'll probably retire when they're 35 max. So considering Charlotte's already 28, I think WWE does not have that much time with her. Relatively, I mean, that's still several years that you could get if she's successful, and who knows if she will be. This match started off like a cat fight, and basically, even the announcer, Tom Phillips, I think that's his name, said so. There was shoving, and Charlotte slapped Summer Rae. Charlotte was dominating for most of the early minutes, and then Summer finally got some offense. Charlotte applied a figure 4 headlock, which I thought was pretty innovative. Summer screamed, "My beautiful face." I mean, Summer had a lot of things in this match where she was just screaming. I don't want to like how that's all Divas do. I mean, Summer was actually screaming words, but most of the time it seems like 90% of a Divas match is just the Divas screaming. Not when you have really high quality Divas like AJ and Talia, the good wrestlers, but for ones that aren't the best wrestlers, they just get by on screaming and like just overselling. And that's one of the reasons I'm really not a fan of Divas matches. All they do is scream, and it's just kind of unpleasant to watch at some points. So Summer finally gets some offense. She screams, "I made you, Charlotte," and then she screams that they don't love Charlotte. Like I said, Summer had several spots basically where she was just screaming, but she was actually screaming words, helping add to the story of the match. Charlotte bit Summer's hand, a spot that I found pretty interesting. Charlotte hit her finisher and retained the championship. I didn't think Summer would win because she is on the main roster, and Charlotte is not. But I thought the ending was pretty anticlimactic. I mean, it's just... they were kind of standing there, and then Charlotte just hit her finisher to end the match, and then it was just kind of fell flat for me. So I'm thinking Charlotte will probably feud with Sasha Banks because they were in the BFF group along with Summer Rae, so that would be the logical next step to feud with Sasha Banks next. And Sasha Banks, in terms of momentum and wins in recent history, would make the most sense. And then after Sasha Banks, assuming Charlotte retains, she'll probably feud with Bayley. And then they showed a promo video for Alexa Bliss, who I can't really stand. She just seems really fake. Her attire as if she's like a storybook character, like a fairy tale. To me, it's not really entertaining at all. I mean, I haven't seen much from her. She beat Sasha Banks. She beat Sasha Banks the other week, and then she lost to Sasha Banks in the rematch last week. So then it was time for the Vaudevillains and against El Kalisto and a mystery partner. I think the Vaudevillains are awesome. It's really cheesy, but as I saw on some website, someone said it's really cheesy, but it's got that pro wrestling feel where you're like, this is awesome. I mean, every part of their entrance to me is just awesome. They've got this, it begins with in black and white, and this guy has like I don't even know what it's called. It's not a bullhorn. It's something like that to project his voice, and it just feels like you're really at a carnival. And to me, that's really entertaining. The theme is interesting because it's, again, you got that carnival theme. I love the NXT crowd most of the time, and sometimes they're kind of disrespectful, like they took a crap on the Divas match and it wasn't even that bad. But I love the NXT crowd because they've got a lot of interesting chants. And as I saw last week, they did it this week too. They clap along with the Vaudevillains theme, and I like that. I mean, it's a nice touch. It makes it just really adds to the theme. I liked Aiden English for a while. I've always thought that he's pretty good. I liked his previous gimmick where he was an opera singer or whatever. And now that he's got Simon Gotch and the Vaudevillains, I think that could really be good for Aiden English. I don't know much about Simon Gotch, but he seems pretty good to me. This gimmick, just like Tyler Breeze, well, not Tyler Breeze isn't, his gimmick isn't original, but the Vaudevillains gimmick along with the Ascension's gimmick, they're both original, and like I said earlier, that's a good thing that you want to have these original gimmicks to bring something new to the table if you're the wrestler or if you're the writers. You want to bring new things to the show when you can, because otherwise the fans are going to feel like you're just repeating the same thing, which WWE has done a fair deal, but these gimmicks seem good and original. I think the Vaudevillains could be good on the main roster, because the main roster, lesser than NXT, but still, the main roster needs more tag teams, and I think the Vaudevillains could be good on the main roster if they just add some things to their gimmick. I mean, right now, all they do is they have this awesome entrance, and then they're pretty much where Adam Rose at this point. They have the awesome entrance, and then they're good at wrestling in the ring, but I haven't really seen that much else. But I do love the Vaudevillains. I think it's awesome. Kalisto's a pretty good high flyer, and a luchador. Sin Cara would be revealed as Kalisto's partner. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, it makes sense. Both luchador wrestlers. I've never liked Sin Cara. I didn't like the original Sin Cara, who always botched and got hurt, and since Hunico took over and he's been the one playing Sin Cara, I think it's gotten better. I think he's a lot better than the original Sin Cara. That's just my humble opinion. But I still don't like Sin Cara. People, regardless if it's Hunico or the original Sin Cara who's gone at this point, they call him Botch Cara and whatever you want to say, any of those jokes. I don't like Sin Cara. I mean, there are rumors that Rey Mysterio is going to be leaving soon. He doesn't want WWE's money, and that's all over the internet. And I don't really understand why. I guess he just kind of wants to leave at this point because they're not using him, and Rey's been constantly hurt. So maybe Rey wants to retire. Maybe he wants to go. I heard he wants to go to Mexico and the AAA promotion, which will be, I think that'd be good for him. But whatever he wants to do. But So to me, if Rey Mysterio wants to leave, it makes sense that they're looking for the next luchador star, be it Sin Cara, Kalisto, or anyone else that we haven't even seen yet. There are rumors that they would put a luchador mask on Tyson Kidd and make him a luchador. That was a couple months ago, and I'm glad they didn't do that. I like what Tyson Kidd is at this point. And he wasn't even on the show this week, which I found surprising. But I guess they kind of alternate who's on the show. I mean, Adrian Neville isn't always on the show. Anyway, this was a relatively good tag team match. Aiden English with a nice mid-air drop kick when Kalisto went for a springboard move. Something that I found interesting was Sin Cara deadlifted Aiden English. You have Hunico playing Sin Cara, and Hunico is bigger than the original Sin Cara, and by bigger I mean more muscular. But Sin Cara slammed Aiden English. He practically deadlifted and Cesaro'd him. I mean, they kind of rolled and then just completely deadlifted Aiden English, who was not a small man, and slammed him, and the announcers made it feel really big, and it was really impressive. So I thought Kalisto was really fast and athletic. He hit all these kicks, and I mean, most luchadors can do that, but he's small, and he's fast and athletic, and I think he could be pretty good. I mean, at the very least, he could be like Sin Cara on the main roster at this point, who just comes in, hits the big spots, and occasionally gets a win. But who knows? Maybe one of them will turn out to be like the next Rey Mysterio. I don't know. We'll see how that ends up. I don't know how they will. Heading into the match, I know how they would book the main event. The NXT champion Aiden English. Wow, I'm sorry. The NXT champion Adrian Neville against Rusev, because Rusev is undefeated in singles matches, barring a DQ loss to Swagger, and you don't really want to have Adrian Neville, the NXT champion, lose to Rusev, because he's the NXT champion. I didn't know how they would book it. I thought it'd be I was intrigued. Let's say that. Lana looking fine as always, and Lana's a very attractive woman, and I'm glad they haven't pulled the plug on Lana and Rusev. I mean, this whole Malaysian Airlines incident, it's been really controversial because Lana mentioned it at Battleground, and this all over the media. People were getting upset, and I thought WWE might pull the plug on Rusev and Lana, which would be a shame, because it would be a waste basically for the past several months, and I think it's a good gimmick. I mean, at first I thought it was a gimmick that'd be much better suited for 20 years ago, but I really think it's getting better and better. They're really starting to gel, Lana and Rusev. Apparently they're dating in real life, and if that's the case, well done, Rusev. Lana, let's see. Putin was on the Titantron as always, of course. I always find that really controversial how they just put Putin on the Titantron and praise Vladimir Putin on national television. To me, that must be I guess Lana's an actress, but still, it's just that must be a little difficult at this point. It's really controversial. But well done, Lana. She said stars will burn out, and I thought that was a good line. She said that Barack Obama and everyone in all NXT is a star, and they'll eventually burn out. I thought that was a good line. I like Adrian Neville. He's a great wrestler and a great high flyer. To me, he needs to show more on the mic. He doesn't really speak that much, and when he does, it's not really anything noteworthy. So right now he's an NXT champion. He's great in the ring. He used to be Pac on the independent scene, so ever since coming to NXT, he's been really good, learning the WWE style. Now he's an NXT champion, and typically that means that he's going to get called up to the main roster sometime soon. Both he and Sami Zayn, I would assume. And I guess if that were the case, Tyler Breeze would win the title, and Tyler Breeze isn't quite ready to get called up to the main roster just yet. So Rusev dominated the NXT champion to start the match, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, it's NXT, you've got your NXT champion looking vulnerable to Rusev, which makes Rusev look good, but does not make Neville look that good. Neville rallies with all these kicks, and the story of big man versus little man has been done millions of times in every wrestling company, it seems. But to me, it's not something that's ever going to get old, because it's always exciting, and you never know what's going to happen. It's either going to be the little guy getting the upset or the big man just crushing the little guy. And Neville wasn't small by any means, but obviously Rusev is a big man, so Neville rallies. Rusev choked him like Kane style, so lifted him up and choked him in midair for a few seconds. Neville hit a nice springboard drop kick. Breeze came down and distracted Neville. He kind of grabbed his hair when the referee wasn't looking, and I didn't see that coming at all. I completely forgot Tyler Breeze as a factor in this match. I didn't think he'd come out and interfere. So Breeze is the number one contender, because he beat Sami Zayn. He's the number one contender to the NXT Championship, which is held by Adrian Neville. So Breeze ran down to the ring, distracted Neville, and then that let Rusev get some more offense in. But then Neville hit a really big kick to the head of Rusev, and Rusev went down. I actually thought they might have Neville win for a second, which would be really surprising. But luckily, Neville went to the top rope for the red arrow, and Breeze pulled him off the top rope, and the referee definitely saw that. So the match ended with Neville winning by disqualification due to Breeze's interference. Rusev hit a really big super kick, which is part of his moveset now, and it's just sickening every time you see it. It's really impactful. And then Rusev put Neville on the accolade, which Rusev does pretty well in my opinion. I mean, a lot of guys do the camel clutch, but Rusev really does it well, and it feels like a big deal because so many people have tapped out to it. So the show ends with Rusev standing tall and screaming, I don't speak Russian, so he was screaming things in Russian, standing tall over the NXT champion. Hopefully we'll see Breeze versus Neville soon. I don't know how long they're going to draw it out, but they're supposed to have another NXT pay-per-view. I thought that wasn't supposed to be till September. But we'll see when we have Neville versus Breeze, and I'll bet that Breeze is going to win that match because they want to bring Neville up to the main roster. So I thought it was a pretty good show. I mean, not anything major. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't like, oh man, you got to see the show, but also wasn't bad. They had a decent Divas title match. She had the Ascension beating it. Jobbers again. NXT needs more tag teams. Tyler Breeze didn't even have a match with Mojo Rawley, just kicked him in the face and pinned him, basically. So Charlotte retained the Divas Championship against Summer Rae. Decent match that the fans crapped on. The Vaudevillains lost to Kalisto and Sin Cara. I think Kalisto and Sin Cara could be a pretty good team. And Rusev looked good in the DQ loss to Adrian Neville. So Rusev technically he has never been pinned or submitted. So technically he's not undefeated anymore. I don't know how WWE will treat that. So Neville and Breeze, a few to look excited for, and a good show. And there's plenty to be excited for next week. Thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to tune in next time. This is Gronk speaking. Thanks for listening. Bye.